let's write haiku. Haiku are a simple type of poem from Japan. Haiku are for anyone to write, not just famous poets. Traditional haiku are 3 lines and only 17 syllables long. The first line has 5 syllables. The second line has 7 syllables. And the third line has 5 syllables. This is a portrait of Matsuo Basho. He was Japan's most famous haiku poet. He hoped that his haiku would inspire readers to appreciate the simple beauty of the world around them, especially the things in nature.
古池や河津飛び込む水の音
This haiku translates to old pond. A frog jumps in. Water's sound. It is Matsuo Basho's most famous haiku. Today, haiku are popular all around the world. Now, people write haiku in many different languages, like this one in Russian.
Сухие листья, мягко шевелит ветер, воспоминания.
It translates to dry autumn leaves, softly stirred by the wind, old memories. Some poets have their own rules for syllables. This haiku in Portuguese is written with different rules for syllables than the traditional Japanese style.
Noite na praia, os pescadores recolhem a estrela cadente.
This translates to night at the beach. The fishermen collect the shooting stars. Some styles of haiku include rules for rhyming. This haiku in English is written in the Brazilian haiku style. Luminous firefly, recant your wild gallivant, twilight sanctify. Here, firefly and sanctify rhyme, as do recant and gallivant. Some haiku are funny, like this one written by Bob Razka. If this puddle could talk, I think it would tell me to splash my sister. Remember, haiku do not need to rhyme, but they can if you want them to. The vocabulary should not be too difficult in haiku writing. Remember, haiku are for everyone to enjoy, so don't try to show off your vocabulary skills for this assignment. You should include something from nature in your haiku. Traditional themes revolve around the 4 seasons, but you can be creative. Remember how Bob Razka used that puddle to tell a funny story about splashing his sister. Now, let's write our own haiku. The first thing you need to do is think of what your haiku is going to be about. I know I want to write about something that has to do with spring, and I saw daffodils blooming yesterday. So I'm using a daffodil as the subject of my haiku. It helps to look at a picture of your subject while you're writing your haiku to generate vocabulary. I have this picture I found online of a Japanese-style woodblock painting of a daffodil. Now, you can look directly at a daffodil, you could find a photograph, however you want to do it, it's up to you. But for me, I like this beautiful painting. Now, you want to create a list of words that you think of when you think of your subject. The first thing I think of is the color yellow, because that's the color of the beautiful blossoms. And since I thought of yellow first, the second thing I thought of was the color green because of those beautiful leaves that pop up. Now, my favorite part of a daffodil is this. It looks just like a trumpet, and I love it. So I want to include that in my haiku. I also think of the sun shining. I think of spring, and I also remember that daffodils come in the early spring, so I'm using the word early on my list. Daffodils make me smile, and I love it when they're blooming. So these are the words I use to generate my list. Now I'm going to begin writing my haiku. I don't worry too much about the rules for the syllables the first time I write about it, because I can check them later and adjust my vocabulary or the words I've used. The first line I want to use is the first thing that I love about daffodils, and that's the trumpet. So my first line is the yellow trumpet. This happens to be 5 syllables, so it's a perfect first line. Now, my second line announces the early spring. The way I came up with this was I thought about what trumpets do, and then I thought about how way back when there were kings and queens, the trumpet announced the entrance of a king with a fanfare. And I kind of think about how daffodils announce early spring with their own type of fanfare. So the yellow trumpet announces the early spring. And of course they make me smile, so smiles at the sun is my third line. Now let's check our syllables. I like to use a picture to help me count my syllables. I get mixed up when I use my fingers, but if you don't, you can use your fingers or you can scratch right on the words. However, it helps you to count the syllables, but this is what I like to use. I put 5 circles on the first line, and I put 7 circles on the second line, and 5 circles on my third line. To count my syllables, I'm going to cross off a circle for each syllable as I read my haiku very slowly. The yellow trumpet announces the early spring, smiles at the sun. Oops, I have 1 syllable that I missed, and I think I know what my mistake was. As I was counting, I noticed that the word smiles is actually 1 syllable in English. But when I wrote it the first time, I said smiles. That was a little mistake. Smiles is a diphthong. We smush that into 1 syllable. So I like to keep a list of words handy for when this happens. There's little words in English like the, and, to, for, of, at. You can make your own list of words, but these are little words I like to keep in mind when I'm writing a haiku. If I have too many syllables, I'll take 1 or 2 of those little words out. If I don't have enough, I'll find a place where 1 of them could fit. Otherwise, if I have a lot of syllables I need, I might add another word from my original vocabulary list. Here, I'm going to take the word and I'm going to put it right here because I have 2 verbs, announces and smiles, and they're both things that my trumpet is doing. So I'll connect them together with this word and. Now my haiku is, the yellow trumpet announces the early spring and smiles at the sun. I kind of like that. I hope you do too. All right, now we're going to learn how to make our haiku look really cool and present it digitally. We're going to use the app Adobe Spark. This is the app I use to make this really beautiful version of my daffodil haiku. You'll make one for your haiku.
Now I'll show you how to make your digital haiku project. We're going to use Adobe Spark to create an Instagram post. Click on the Adobe Spark app to open it. Now you'll click the green plus sign that shows up at the bottom of the screen. This is to create a new project. We are going to use free photos. So in the middle of the list, there's a menu option that says Search Free Photos. Click that. Now, it will have a word already in the search bar. In my example, it says island. Yours might say something else. That's okay, we're not going to use it anyway. Click the gray X at the end of the search bar. That erases the word island. Now, type in your keyword. I'm going to use the word daffodil since my haiku is about daffodils. Now my screen has loaded with hundreds of pictures of daffodils that are free for me to use for my haiku project. I'm going to select one that I like, and I'll know that it's ready to be selected because a green check mark shows up at the top corner of the picture. I can choose more than one if I want to, but for this project, I prefer just one photo. You can choose more than one if you prefer more than one photo. Now that I have selected the photo or photos that I want to use, I'm going to click the green words Add One at the top right-hand corner of the screen. Now, this shows me what my picture looks like in the square format. If you look at the bottom bar at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to slide it right now. This shows you the different sizes you can make your project. Instagram will automatically be selected, so you don't need to change it. But if you happen to come up with a different size, just find the one that says Instagram or has the Instagram logo and is shaped like a square, because we're going to make square format projects today. Once you have the square selected, click Done. Mine automatically populates with my favorite fonts, but they don't match this project, and it populates with a logo, so I'm deleting it. Yours will not have this, so you don't need to worry about this step. Now, you're going to click the plus sign at the bottom of the screen. This produces a menu. It says Add Text, Add Photo, Add Icon, and Add Logo. We are going to add text now, so click Add Text. Here, you will type your haiku into the screen. Trumpet. Announces the early spring and smiles at the sun. Okay. So now I've put my text in here. Make sure that you hit the return button after each line so that you have 3 lines. Now, mine has popped up on the screen and it shows me these 3 lines, and each of the lines of text has a white bar behind it, and that's so that you can see the text against the background. If you don't like the shape that it gives you on yours, you can simply click on Shape. If you don't like those bars, I could have it be a line that goes across the whole picture. I can have it be a circle, a diamond. You can choose whatever shape you like. Or if you don't like it at all, you can erase it. Now, if I decide that I want my text to be on the screen without a shape behind it, I need to make sure that I use a color that shows up. The black is really hard to read, so if I decided I wanted to do this, I would probably use a different color font, and I would have to go through several until I find one. It's really hard to find one for this picture because in the background, there's white, yellow, and there's also some dark parts. So I think using a shape for mine is the best choice. I don't really like the brown, so I'm going to choose some different colors. I've clicked on color in the menu. I actually kind of like the black and white because it makes my text stand out against the back of the picture. But I don't want it to be too difficult to see the beautiful picture behind it. So I'm going to go over to this part of the menu that says opacity. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit so you can still see some of the picture behind it. I could go all the way down if I want, but I think about here is good. Now, part of my picture is cut off, and I want to adjust it so that the daffodil is closer to the middle. Just tap the picture, and now you can do whatever you want with it. I can slide it over to the right or the left. I can zoom in, zoom out. Since my haiku talks about that center part of the daffodil where the trumpet is, I really want that to be the center of my picture. I think I like that a lot. Now there's one more thing that you might want to try doing. I'm going to click Done for now, and I'm going to click on Layout. Here, if you click Spacing, you can add a border, and I think that looks really nice to have a little border around it, so I decided I want to do that. If you don't like using a border, you don't have to. I actually like the color that came up automatically, but you can choose other colors if you like. Maybe you want to use yellow, black, blue. There's lots of options, but I'm going back to the one it shows automatically. Now I'm all set to share mine. To save it, you're going to click Share and then click on the Save Image button. Now you'll be able to show it to me and share it to the Google Classroom. If you want to play around with some of the templates and the other options that are in this app, you're welcome to, but just remember, you want your haiku to be the focus of your project and not necessarily the picture. So there's a few things you can do to play around with it. Maybe you like some of these templates. If not, you can just make your own. All right, have fun.
You may work with a partner to share your design ideas, and when you're done, share it on our Google Classroom and write another haiku. We'll take your favorite one and we're going to print it. I thought it might be really fun to take our Instagram posts of haiku and instead of just sharing them online, print them and put them in places around the school.